Okay, so we have a real treat for you now, and I'm very much excited to introduce our next speaker. Her session is entitled Trust Me, I'm an Algorithm, the Missing Link in AI Governance. She was awarded an OBE by King Charles for services to technology in 2016. She has written many articles evangelizing about technology and is currently working on a coding book to be published by Penguin. She's a fantastic speaker, and this is something I've really been looking forward to. Please give a warm round of applause to Professor Sue Black, OBE, Professor of Computer Science and Technology, Evangelist, and Director of EDI Computer Science Department at Durham University. Sue Black.
Good morning, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here this morning. Sorry, just get my first slide up. So thank you very much for inviting me along to speak to you this morning. I'm delighted to be here. So what is the missing link in AI governance? That's what I'm going to be talking about this morning. So I didn't always look like this kind of crazy middle-aged woman with red hair. I wonder if you can guess who this is. So actually, this was me quite a long time ago now. Someone asked me a while ago, when did I first know that I was a geek? And I definitely am a geek. I'm a professor of computer science, so I must be a geek, right? I thought back to this kind of time, and I used to save up my pocket money. So we used to get pocket money every week for doing our chores. And about once a month, we'd go along to the local shopping centre, and I would run straight into the bookstore, W.H. Smith's, straight over to the maths textbook section so that I could go and buy myself a maths textbook. So I definitely was a geek from an early age. So just a little bit about me to kind of frame the conversation. So here are some lovely pictures, which are all to do with different parts of my life. I come from like an average family, but unfortunately my mum died when I was quite young, and I ended up living in a dysfunctional family situation. I had to leave home and school at 16, so I don't come from a traditional background. I left school, I started working, I got married at the age of 20, had 3 children by the age of 23, so again, probably not that traditional. Unfortunately, my marriage broke down after that, and I ended up being a single parent at around the age of 25, finding myself having to support my children on my own. What I did was I thought, well, I didn't want to leave school when I was 16. Why don't I go back into education? So that's what I did. I went along to the local college, did a maths course because I still loved maths, then did a degree in computer science, stayed on, did a PhD in software engineering, was promoted several times through to being head of department, and have done lots of amazing things since then. I've been in academia quite a lot of the time. I set up a social enterprise to help women learn technology skills because I really realized what a massive difference education and technology had made to my life, and wanted to help others benefit from the same kind of education. When I started teaching as a PhD student, I was really, really shy, and so the first time that I taught a class of 10 students, I was so scared that I didn't sleep the night before. But then I've managed to kind of adapt and change myself over the years. So the picture that you can see in the middle there is me speaking to 17,000 people on stage at the Grace Hopper Conference, so the world's biggest Women in Technology conference. So I've managed to kind of change myself over the years to becoming more confident, to be able to stand on stage in front of you. And in lots of ways, I've really tried to help other people, particularly women, particularly from underserved communities, to live better and more productive lives by empowering them through technology. So that's kind of my trajectory leading up to today. So going back to my degree, so I don't know if anyone here used ELIZA back in the day. So when I started my degree in 1989, this was kind of what we were told was like the cutting edge in AI. It was ELIZA. You could type on screen, ask it questions. It was supposed to be like a therapist, but you can see from the screen here that in a very basic conversation, already after 2 or 3 interactions, it wasn't really great AI. And you realize quite quickly that you weren't talking to a person. It was supposed to be like a person. And then we learned all about expert systems. I don't know if you remember those, and they were said to be useful to replace doctors. So we wouldn't need doctors, we could just use AI expert systems. So this is back in the 90s. And then we had this period. Does anyone know what this is? So this represents the AI winter. So kind of around the, I think, late 90s, early 2000s, we kind of had the AI winter where people knew about AI, but we couldn't really do that much with it. And one of the things I learned about on my degree also was Moore's law, about the capability of computers doubling every 18 months. And that's something that I didn't really think that hard about earlier on, but of course that's made a massive difference to get us to where we are today. And then of course in, I think, 2016 we had this paper, this famous paper, which was all about transformer architectures. And that's really led us to kind of where we are today. And we've got all these amazing tools, large language models. I think someone asked on stage yesterday who here's using ChatGPT, and I think practically everyone put their hand up. So we're all using these tools all the time, and the change has been absolutely massive through my career. So governance and regulation, of course, are important, but what is the missing link? So in terms of governance and regulation, it was great to hear from Professor Wendy Hall, who was on stage here yesterday, who's been part of the Bletchley Declaration and also part of the UN. Countries coming together now to regulate, to govern, to think hard about what do we need to do to keep our citizens safe, to keep our organisations safe, to keep our nations safe. So it's such a really important question at the moment. And of course, regulation and governance are so important. We also need to keep in mind that we're all biased, we all have unconscious bias, and we need to think hard about how to make sure that our systems aren't biased, because if we think about how many citizens are going to be affected by the systems that we're building, of course we need to make sure as much as possible that they are unbiased for everyone that's going to be used or affected by them. So there's an amazing film on Netflix, which if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. This film here called Coded Bias. And the work done by Joy Buolamwini, who's an amazing researcher at MIT, who's done some incredible work to kind of showcase how biased our systems can be and what we need to be aware of. There's also a film called The Great Hack, which is about how the population can be manipulated through AI. And so some real things there that we need to be aware of and keep in mind when we're thinking about building AI systems. So I also can't go without mentioning my PhD student, Sarah Wyer's work. So she's been looking at large language models and the bias within them. And if you Google her, you should be able to find some of her research. So another thing to keep in mind too, so we've had this scandal in the UK, the post office scandal. So a computer system being implemented which was giving false results, and which meant that people working in post offices around the UK, some have been prosecuted over the years for fraud, for embezzling money, and we found that, well, it's come to light recently that, in fact, they weren't doing that at all, that the system was wrong, it was producing incorrect results. And so we have to be really careful to make sure that people understand that the results from computer systems, from our AI, are not always correct. And we need to empower our citizens so that if things don't seem correct, that they're happy to call that out, to make sure that lots of people aren't adversely affected by the results of our AI systems. And we also need, of course, to keep in mind that AI is kind of like a black box. We can't always look at what's happening underneath to make sure that the results are correct or what we want them to be. So education. We know education changes lives. Education has massively changed my life. It's enabled me to bring my family out of poverty into the life that I have today, which is just such a long way away from where I was all those years ago. And we know that an educated workforce enables the people within that workforce, but also enables companies to get competitive advantage. And we also know that a well-trained, well-educated workforce And now we need to think about how they're going to be educated around using AI, are going to be able to increase our nation's GDP, because an educated and empowered person empowers themselves, and then within the workforce they empower the organisations that they're working for, and then within a whole country, those companies being more productive are able to create wealth for the countries that they're in. So I like to think about how to educate our populations and how important it is by thinking about how we educate our children to be streetwise. So if we think about our children growing up, we need to help them to be independent as they go out onto the streets, teach them how to cross the road, and teach them how to be safe with traffic, to make sure they don't get run over. So we all kind of get used to teaching our children gradually how to do that when they go out onto the streets, how to be streetwise. And so I think we need to start educating our public to be kind of streetwise with AI, to help them to understand what's happening, where things can go wrong, but also what the opportunities are to help them in their lives. So I think that what we need is, of course we need regulation, of course we need governance, that's very important, but we also need education to go hand in hand with that. So if we think about some examples here, so in the UK we had regulation in the 1980s, so everyone then had to wear a seatbelt. And it was found that over a few years after that, there was a 29% reduction in injuries from people in cars. So we need the regulation, we need the governance, but we also need to educate people. And so at around the same time as that, we had this thing called the Green Cross Code. And this guy that you can see here always said, "I won't be there when you cross the road." So it's a memory from my childhood. And so we all learned how to cross the road because we had public education films. And so with the regulation and the education together, we then have had 60% reduction in fatalities on the roads. So other examples of where we need regulation and education. So in the UK, again, we have bans on smoking in public places, so some governance and regulation there. But also we've had campaigns about the negative effects of smoking. And so in the UK, the percentage of smoking, as you can see here, has gone down from 19% down to 11%. And of course, over time, that's saving thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives across the UK. We've also had a sugar tax, so regulation around sugar, so to try and stop particularly children from having too much sugar in their diets. And we've also had these campaigns around you must eat your 5 a day, so 5 fruits and vegetables every day to help you be more healthy. And again, around the use of plastics, single-use plastics. We've got kind of education campaigns around a bag for life, so you should just have one plastic bag that you take back to the shops every time rather than single-use plastic bags. And so we can see that the regulation along with the education again has made a big difference. And so overall, the missing link, I think, is education. Of course we need the regulation, of course we need governance, but we need to educate our citizens as well in how AI works, how to use it, how it affects them, what to do if they think the results are wrong, to not always trust the results of the AI and to call that out. But also to see the opportunities that there are with AI now, which, of course, all of us here understand to a certain extent and are all kind of positive about using AI, but so many people are scared of AI, so many people are scared of technology. We need to help them to enable them to see what the opportunities are for them, and also to make sure that they understand that there might be bias and that may affect them negatively, and to call it out if that happens. So, I'm also known as the selfie queen, is a nickname that I have because I take so many selfies. So I thought to finish my talk, I would take a quick selfie with you in the audience before we go to questions. So hopefully this is going to work now. Was everyone ready to smile? Great, thank you. I've got my selfie.
Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Sue Black.
Thank you.
As a comms person, right, so I do a lot of work training people on communications and working on communications campaign. Education can be tricky, but if it's done really well and communicated really well, it can be really successful. I'm thinking about the 1985 Don't Mess with Texas campaign, where there was a huge problem with young men throwing their rubbish out the window on the highways of Texas, and they really wanted to change the dynamic. And so they hired this advertising company to try and do something about it. They wanted to get a 5% change in behavior. And what they did is they recruited macho guys that these young men looked up to. So Stevie Ray Vaughan and NFL players. And they got them to make these ads called Don't Mess with Texas and made it a macho thing. And they saw a change of 32% in 1 year.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, in terms of educating the population, there's so much out there about AI and responsible AI. How do we cut through the noise and communicate really clearly with young people in particular, but also people in business on how to use this thing responsibly and how to think about the implications of deploying it at scale?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think like your example there, we probably need to, I'm not a PR person or a comms person, but we probably need to think about different target groups that we really want to affect their behavior. So yes, absolutely. So probably with young people through TikTok, I'm guessing in some way would be the best way to do it. But I think there are so many opportunities with AI as well. You know, I think about, so, you know, my mum-in-law who's 80, who, you know, kind of lives by herself, which I think a lot of elderly people in the UK do. There's so much opportunity for people to connect with each other using AI. And I think it could solve so many problems, but so many people are scared of it. So I think, yeah, I don't know exactly what the campaign should be, but we should definitely be targeting different demographic groups in different ways. And so we might need some macho guys for part of it, but then maybe some other people for the rest.
Absolutely. Do we have questions for Professor Sue Black? Please raise your hands. Yes, there's a gentleman there. If we can get a microphone to him. Thank you, sir.
Hi. This is Firas from Omantel. I would like just to ask about what kind of, or what is the main ethical consideration in order to have, you know, a successful adaptation of AI in organization.
I couldn't really hear that.
Sorry.
Okay.
We need some volume in these monitors on the stage, please. We cannot hear the questions. Just one moment. So can we get monitor audio, please? Just one more time, please, sir.
Yeah. So what is the main ethical consideration pillars?
Sorry, 1 second. We're getting more volume here. We need volume on the stage because we can't hear because of the echo.
Otherwise, I will just come into the stage to put my
why don't you come up on the stage? We'll do that. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause for our question. Moment of fame. We need to sort that out if we can, please. Thanks, folks.
Yeah, just.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience, sir?
Yeah, so this is Firas from Omantel. It's one of the leading company in Oman. It's basically the leading company of telecommunication in Oman. So my question is that previously in the panel discussion, they were talking about ethical consideration to put in mind in order to adapt AI. So my question is that what are the main pillars that organizations should put in mind to adapt AI or AI use cases? What are the main pillars that they should put in mind?
In terms of bias?
Come again?
In terms of bias, sorry.
In terms of AI. So they want to adapt AI, and there are some pillars they should put in mind in order to adapt AI in their organizations.
I'm not sure, I'm really sorry.
Okay, let me put it in a very simple
That's not really
words.
a question for me,
Fine.
I don't think.
So in order to let's say, organizations to adapt AI, they need like a certain baby steps to adapt the AI.
So what are the steps to follow for an ethical adoption of AI within an organization?
So I think, well, you need to think about bias in different ways. So think about different groups of people that might be adversely affected by what you're doing. Is that what you mean? Kind of. Maybe we should have a chat afterwards.
Fine.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for coming up on stage.
Okay, I think we need to just sort the audio here, folks. So please, a big round of applause for Professor Sue Black.
Thank you. Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Thank you.